I'll start off by saying this. We all knew that Golden Boy quarterback one, Cody Rhodes, was going to win the WWE Championship back from Drew. But the problem is, people online, as usual, with extremely low standards and embarrassing intelligence level, are saying, well, Cody was all we already know he was going to win, and we already wanted Cody versus Randy at WrestleMania, so what's the problem? The fans switched up. We never switched up. Drew McIntyre was done dirty. He's not getting the booking that he's worth when it comes to, him either. It's so sad that it's sad that we even got to explain this. Drew McIntyre losing on a random Friday Night SmackDown, and then we already had Nick Aldis and Drew McIntyre talk about, well, now that I'm WWE champion, I made it into my contract that Cody Rhodes can never challenge me as long as I'm WWE champion. This is all kind of sad. And the fact that fans don't seem to understand that we're this close to WrestleMania. We're going to get a face versus face, even though that we already were teased with Randy and Cody about like 10,000 times when Cody Rhodes was having his championship being stared out by Randy Orton. Randy Orton was staring at the he stared at the championship every single week back when Cody was champion. And now we're just supposed to, pick up where we left off on that when Cody's entire title reign was about, I think, John Cena, and then John Cena's title reign was about Cody Rhodes, and then Cody Rhodes, he lost the championship at WrestleMania just to win it back at SummerSlam, and then they go on from SummerSlam to WrestlePalooza. WrestlePalooza was supposed to have Cody drop the championship to Drew McIntyre due to interference by Randy Orton. And then Triple H declined that idea and said, no, we're going to drag this out. And so then after he dragged it out, Cody Rhodes then again beats Drew McIntyre. And then that leads to nothing. And then it's unfortunate. And what's most unfortunate is I believe that ever since Drew McIntyre became WWE champion, the audience attendance increased by 30%, and the ratings increased by 4.5% on SmackDown, I believe. And then why give Drew McIntyre this championship now? I already knew it was going to end up in failure and disaster but this right here was bizarre, especially since Cody Rhodes. He feels extremely commercial and forced and boring and all that. And then he says, I respect you, Drew McIntyre, but I will defeat you for the WWE Championship on SmackDown. And he talks like a pastor. Here's, for example, you have been in my way for too long. So Sami Zayn, when I win the WWE Championship, come on, dude. And then he does the whole shake with the fist and the punch to the jaw, and then punches himself in the face, and then does it. Dude, it's unbearable. And the fact that we're getting this, I'd say 2025 was the perfect time to pull the trigger with Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, because Cody Rhodes wasn't doing much of anything, and then we had Randy Orton jelly roll. They pivoted from Kevin Owens, and then Randy didn't have anything for 2025. So the fact that we wasted an entire year and then we're getting it now when it's way overdue, because they spent a whole year teasing Randy. Is he going to turn on Cody? Is he going to turn on him? Is he going to turn on Cody? At least like a couple years ago. 2024 wasn't that long ago. So we had Randy teasing for an entire year, looking at Cody's championship and still not doing anything. And now we're supposed to be excited because we're getting it this year. And then the fans are going to say, all y'all do is complain. Why are you switching up? Nobody's switching up. Nobody switched up. You literally sacrificed, Triple H sacrificed Drew McIntyre's entire thing he had going on just to get to a match that that he rejected the first time and, and should have been building to. Because now we're whatever we get now is just going to feel forced. It's going to feel rushed, not forced but rushed. Because we have 6 weeks, they haven't even encountered or interacted with each other, and now we're just gonna pretend like everything's okay when it's not. They should have built it on this a while ago. And then you have people are going to say, well, it's history. They had history. History doesn't always equate to a story. Of course, they were in the legacy, but then they did nothing after that. When Cody was champion, they did nothing. They just had Randy staring at the championship doing nothing. It's annoying. So then we start off the show with Randy Orton, and he was cutting a promo, and then you see that the crowd is cheering and singing along with his music. Now, these crowds with these, trained seals and the sing-alongs and the kids that they bring along to the show, and then the adults who are there just to waste money and, rich and well off to do, so they just say, well, I might as well go to a wrestling show. And then they sing. It doesn't matter if you're a heel or a face. They'll for some reason sing everyone's name and song. It's honestly kind of embarrassing. But then at the same time, they enable TKO to price gouge and put on bare minimum product because people are way over than their songs are way more over than they are. Cody Rhodes and even Randy Orton doesn't like the fact that the crowd sing the songs, but they're gonna keep singing anyways because the crowds are trained seals. They'll chant "This is awesome" and "You deserve it" to someone who's probably been on the main roster for like 2 days, and then they win a championship. You deserve it. No, you don't. They were chanting "You deserve it" to AJ Lee. That was her first singles match in like 11 years. You deserve it. How? You weren't even here. What are you talking about? Oh, man, these crowds are, man. Same people who chant yeet and do the yeeting stuff, and then they're the same people in the arenas yeeting right now, then they'll go home and talk about how much they don't like it. Just trained seal activity. So then we get Randy and Trick Williams. Trick Williams on the Lazy Susan that it's not the same one because it's a square light, but it's something similar to what Bobby Roode used to do back when he was the Glorious One. But I believe that this Lady Susan thing has to go. They gotta only use it for pay-per-views because I think that he should be walking out on regular Raws and SmackDowns. Because Trick Williams is already over. It feels like Trick Williams has been on the main roster for I don't know, man, 5 years. The dude's got so much. He's super over. But since they don't have anything for them, instead of arguing about something worthwhile, Trick Williams. No, I'm not even exaggerating. Trick Williams and Randy Orton were arguing about how tall they are. Trick Williams was like, "Yeah, I'm 6'5". Randy Orton was like, "No, you're not." And so Trick Williams was like, well, I'm going to hit you with these lemon pepper steppers. And then he got an RKO from Randy Orton. And then the segment is over. And that was 21 minutes into the show. And then we get a commercial. Absolutely nothing to do with WrestleMania. Just, yeah, well, I'm taller than you, Randy, and I can prove it. And then he RKOs him. And then we go to commercial. We're in WrestleMania season. And I guarantee if the WrestleMania logos wasn't in the arena hanging in the crowd, you wouldn't even know it's WrestleMania season. We got two dudes talking about how I'm taller than you. No, you're not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. All right. It's crazy, man. And then we get back from commercial, and then we have El Hijo, Dr. Wagner Jr., accepting Carmelo Hayes' open challenge. Now, I say these are probably some of the worst spots of the shows now because Carmelo still has no story. Now, he has zero story, just have matches and have moves and do moves, do matches, do put on bangers, and then we're gonna forget about it because there's nothing attached to it. Carmelo Hayes wants to bring back the spinner title for the United States Championship, but they probably won't do it because they didn't do it for John. Yeah, just a whole bunch of nothing really. And I'm a fan of Dr. Wagner and Carmelo, but the crowd wasn't even really too much into it because they didn't know who Dr. Wagner was, and Carmelo Hayes. The crowd only cheers for him now because the people he's facing, aren't really noteworthy because AAA audience and main roster audience and all that stuff, So Still has nothing for Melo. That's crazy. Like you're champion and and also Carmelo Hayes isn't booked like a champion because he's in weird multi-man team matches losing as champion, and then still has no story. So after that happens, we get Lash Legend and Nia Jax having their celebration, and then they come out to their new Dev Rebel theme song, and then Nia Jax called them stallions, and even though that stallion is a male horse, so Nia Jax and Lash Legend, she called them dudes pretty much. And then we get, I think it was Charlotte Flair and Alexa, and then Julia and Kiana James. Now, I heard the reports, and I think they're true about WWE completely abandoning and giving up on Julia, even though it's their fault because they called her up and then turned her into nothing, even though she's supposed to be either greater than or on the same level as a Stephanie Vaquer. But they just have her losing and jobbing to the same people. Rhea Ripley beat Julia twice. No, I think it was like twice or three times. And now we have Charlotte Flair beating Julia. When Julia is literally the Women's United States champion. This is just embarrassing. And Julia and Kiana James is getting these big spots at the Royal Rumble. She's able to showcase herself. She's, literally in the women's Elimination Chamber match. They can't even give Julia time of day. And Julia, I think she was the number 2 spot in 2 out of 50 in PWI, as the best women's wrestler in the world of that year. So to see, either Julia needs to go to AEW or New Japan or New Japan Strong, but she's not going to get what she's worth in WWE. They still have yet to. People are confused as to why she's saying arrivederci, even though that she's half Japanese, half Italian. But the people won't know that because they don't lean into it. Like creative just doesn't get. They just have her speak Japanese and do nothing. It's honestly sad what they're doing to Julia. But if the company doesn't care and the stars don't care, they're just there for the paycheck. Then I can't really care. They're just pimping out their own careers. I remember Xavier Woods and Dolph Ziggler. Like they were so complacent to the fact that they just said, yeah, well, I'm just here for the check. They're ruining my character, but as long as I get the money, I'm fine. So. There's only so much a fan can really care about. So if you like it, I love it, I guess. And then we get, as soon as we see multiple people or multiple teams in the ring together, we all know what's up. A formulaic tag team match set up after Nick Aldis says, wait a second, hold on. All of this arguing, we won't solve this with words. We're going to have a match between you and you and you and you and you and you and you. Hell, if somebody's arguing in the crowd, we're going to have, crowd A member talking with crowd B, and we're going to have a match with them too. None of this is WrestleMania. Like you think that since they're a month and a half away, that at least something, but this is nothing. It's unfortunate for real. It's so sad. Then we get a tag team turmoil, but the only problem is, the tag teams haven't wrestled on, I think, SmackDown in like a month or two, month and a half, because we've been doing the same boring run into the ground storyline between the MFTs and the Wyatt Six, and then, we haven't seen any actual tag teams, like not faction, but teams like DIY and, well, we won't see them again. Well, we won't, people like Motor City Machine Guns, Los Garjas, like people like that, we haven't seen any teams, and then we get Fraxium versus Motor City Machine Guns. And last time I checked, both of them are faces. So when you have a face versus a face, nobody's going to cheer for them. They're going to cheer for their moves because they don't know who to cheer, and once you confuse them, you lose them. So the crowd was lost, and then they were only popping once Nathan Frazier did a move or, somebody did a flip or, they're putting on a banger, It's all about work rate. It's not about storylines, and that's why things suck nowadays. People talk about how much storylines are overrated, and then once you can't get behind someone because you're not invested, then you don't care, and then the arena gets quiet. Right. It's almost like wrestling needs stories too. not just moves and backflips and a couple pile drivers, and then you kick out of them, and then you pile drive someone through a flaming table with thumbtacks off a ladder from a steel cage off the Hell in a Cell, and then they kick out at 2.5, and then the crowd goes mild. They go mild. So then we get R-Truth. He went from R-Truth to Ron Killings to serious R-Truth. Now he's back to Ron Cena. So R-Truth, he was failed, but he was failed by the creative team. But, honestly, I mean, it was expected because, this is all on purpose because Triple H didn't want to bring it back in the first place. So the man who is spiteful and shady, who didn't even want you to have your job back, you have your job. Of course, you're not going to be done right. So now Damian Priest, whose theme song is extremely monotone and his character isn't much of anything to go off of because Damian Priest is much better as a heel. So they have nothing for them, so they're just going to put them in a tag team. So now they're, winning, and they're probably going to get a tag team opportunity. But the only problem with this is, they're not a team. Their only exposure to each other were watching matches with each other backstage. That's it. But on the bright side, at least R-Truth isn't, at least he's not being written to tell ball jokes, because he was telling ball jokes for like 4 months and then off TV. So then we get, Jade versus Rhea Ripley on the promo, and the only problem is this confirms even more that people who said that this was a work, they're absolutely stupid. It's clear as day that Rhea Ripley got offended as usual, and especially since she's extremely soft on the internet and she will like bash fans, go after fans, have arguments with fans. This isn't surprising that as soon as Jade Cargill told the truth about her talking to creative, as she usually does, Rhea Ripley got offended, and then also Chelsea Green and Piper Niven and Nia Jax who are heels are coming to the aid of Rhea Ripley. So it was clear as day that this wasn't a work. It was a full-blown shoot. But this promo was absolutely nothing compared to all that. It was pretty tame, especially since Jade Cargill was like, "Yeah, well, I respect you, and I respect your I respect your hard work, and I respect your." She was even talking about her body and talking about, well, you put in the work in the gym, and I respect that. Your arms are big, and your thighs are bigger, but mine are bigger. And then they shake hands. But then, see, and this is exactly why people can't get over it. You have people literally like legit beefing, and you have them shake hands on TV. I don't get the point of that. It's just like it just reminds me of how Gunther's booked. He can have the most devious, most malicious lines in a promo. Talk about Randy Orton's family, talking about how Cody Rhodes is a failure, and then they shake hands. He extends his hand out, and then they shake it. I instantly lost interest. And this promo was a whole bunch of mid. Rhea Ripley's overrated. The only people who seem to like her fan base, I've noticed, are either goth emo girls, dudes who are in love with the goth aesthetic, lesbians, gooners, and women who cosplay as Rhea Ripley. That seems to be her fan base. And then she gets in the ring, has a promo, and the promo doesn't move me at all. And then, she does talk to creative, because I don't know why she was in that match with Rhea and Bianca last year. I don't know. Like, when it comes to Rhea Ripley, I don't get the appeal. Nothing works for me. And then Rhea Ripley said something like, well, you train your body for aesthetic, but I train my body to withstand, or, the rough nature of the business. She's had under 40 matches in like 3 years, and she was injured because, actually she was injured in a backstage segment with I think it was around WrestleMania time, when she had to relinquish the title because her arm was broken or her shoulder was broken or something like that. And all she did was get slammed into a wall by Liv Morgan. But you train your body to withstand the harsh nature of the business. Last time I checked, when she was champion for almost 400 days, she only defended it twice. What are we talking about here? Anyways, Obafemi versus Johnny Gargano. But see, Oba is super over, but this wasn't a night for Oba. Now, I only say this because the crowd is super sympathetic towards Johnny Gargano because WWE is burying him actively, even though he was one of the top people of Black and Gold. It seems that, it seems to me like, if you were in Black and Gold, your career isn't, because you have Shayna Baszler, the Johnny Garganos, the Candice LeRae, who was putting on classics with the Young Bucks and PWG, and now look what she's doing. And then you have Johnny Gargano, and I don't know. I just don't understand why Triple H, if he was one of these integral pieces to have people over on the Black and Gold, and why did he try so hard to ruin his own creations? I don't understand. It's almost like Shawn Michaels and William Regal are the actual heavy lifters for Black and Gold, and Triple H only flew in on a private jet whenever he wanted to Florida, and then say, "Are you ready?" and all this stuff. Like, same thing he's doing now. Shawn Michaels and William Regal were the true masterminds of Black and Gold, but they don't get their credit. Karrion Kross, Black and Gold, former NXT champion, ruined. Shayna Baszler, ruined. Johnny Gargano, ruined. Tommaso Ciampa ran out of the company. He was sitting there depressed, especially when he had when I think it was all three of them. It was a T-shirt thing of "Don't call my husband a jackass, don't call me a jackass, don't call my husband's friends a jackass," and they were wearing the shirts. And then he had the "Don't call me a jackass" gimmick. I'm like, bro, seriously? Like, what? Like, no one will survive the NXT Blackheart, and then they go to the main roster. It's almost like the person who was given the credit isn't able to book TV shows. It's unfortunate. So then we have Obafemi. This was not the match to have for Obafemi because the crowd was already sympathetic towards Johnny. So they kind of put them in a weird spot with Oba, and then Oba didn't have that bigger reaction because the crowd, Johnny's Gargano has been ruined since a while ago. So, anyways, then we get Danhausen and Nick Aldis, and Danhausen's asking for a Hall of Fame a Hall of Fame induction. Now, you might as well give it to him because the Hall of Fame doesn't mean anything. I mean, you literally have Undertaker appearing and spawning out of nowhere on his motorcycle just to induct people. So you might as well just give it to him. It won't make much of a difference. And then Danhausen wants a mentor. Miz doesn't want to mentor him, but he's probably going to end up mentoring him anyways. And then the segment ends. But honestly, Danhausen's segments are pretty good. I think his segments are the best, one of the best parts of the show. Oh yeah, I can't forget Sami Zayn, who has had nothing interesting since 2024. He was talking to Cody and talking about how he's sorry and talking about how he's apologetic and talking to Cody about how remorseful he is and all this garbage. And then on top of that, he was asking, well, how could you possibly, he was talking to Randy Orton. He said, how could you possibly have your friend in the match and at Elimination Chamber and RKO him? Well, if it's an every man for himself match, and there's a WWE Championship on the line at WrestleMania, common sense, Sami Zayn, he's been the same underdog since NXT. Dude got called up to NXT late 2015, early 2016, and he's still the same underdog. When he was a champion, he was an underdog. I truly think that nothing interesting can really come out of this unless Sammy turns heel. And I'm not even gonna lie, Sammy. The only good heel Sammy was the conspiracy theory Sammy. Like back in 2021, 2020, that time when he was talking about the whole company's against me, and he was the Intercontinental Champion. That was the only time that Sammy was actually interesting. Because a lot of fans don't understand. Just because you turn someone heel, that doesn't mean that everything they do is gonna be interesting. That's not how it works. Oh, man. And then we get, Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, for some reason, pulls out a table and then puts Cody through it, and then the referee's looking straight at him while he does it. But this is an exhibition for the championship. This isn't an Extreme Rules match. So I don't really understand how that works. You know, Drew McIntyre literally powerbombed Cody Rhodes through the table, and then nothing happens. But it doesn't matter. He was going to lose anyways, unfortunately. Corporate Cody strikes again, man. Man, it's tiring. And it's even more tiring because you have people who are supposed to be legit heels like a Gunther and a Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre went most of 2025 losing matches for no reason that he had no business losing. Same thing for Gunther. And Gunther was originally going to lose to Pat McAfee. And now you have Gunther going 50-50 with Dragon Lee. That does nothing for it. You mean to tell me he retired Goldberg, he retired AJ Styles and John Cena, but he can't put down a luchador who he's twice the size of, and he struggled. Dragon Lee almost beat this dude on Raw. But you mean to tell me that come on now, the booking for people who are supposed to be monstrous heels, like, come on now. It's not, it does nothing for them. Bro. Man, that Smackdown was crazy. And a part of that makes it funnier is because now that Road Dogg's out, he can't be used as a scapegoat. And the part that nobody blamed Triple H and they only blamed Road Dogg when Road Dogg he doesn't have the power to approve everything like the chief content creative officer of the creative, like who is Triple H. I don't understand. People love to pedestalize the game. But the thing is, Triple H had more power than Road Dogg. Triple H has the ability to confirm or deny things that Road Dogg writes, but people only blamed Road Dogg. It's insane. But now that we're pretty sure we're in the new era, are you enjoying the show? Pretty sure we are now in a new era because Cody Rhodes is now the champion. So. And then we had people online fantasy booking multi-man match for the WWE Championship for whatever reason, but that would kind of render the Elimination Chamber and Royal Rumble completely useless, don't you think? You know, like if we use our critical thinking skills, that wouldn't be fair to the people who actually earned it. You know, like if I were to be a wrestler and I either beat 29 other men in the Royal Rumble or 5 other dudes in the Elimination Chamber. And for some reason, just because you whined enough into your spot, you can get into the match that I worked hard for just by whining and complaining like Rhea Ripley did, or it makes zero sense. It should be a one-on-one match because only one person earned their spot at a chance to main event WrestleMania and possibly win a title. But I don't know, man. Let me know what you think down in the comments below about your thoughts on this Smackdown from last night. It was Cody Rhodes is champion once more, and they I don't know why they just didn't pull the trigger when they was needed, because this is long overdue. So it's not gonna, I don't know, man. But let me know what you think down in the comments below. And till next time, Lemon out.